The base is dropped on another edition of Soccer Down Here. It's time for the morning kickoff presented by Kickoff Coffee, co.com. I hear good things about how much you guys like the Kickoff Coffee. Thank you for supporting the show. You can use the code Soccer Down Here 15 to get a discount of 15% on your Kickoff Coffee order. And thank you for supporting everything that Kickoff Coffee is doing to raise money for soccer-based youth development organizations. 10% of their proceeds go to those kinds of organizations. It's just such a cool initiative. I love what they're doing, and I love that you guys are loving what they're doing. Thank you for the great response. Kickoffcoffeeco.com. Soccer Down Here 15 is the code. Get your Kickoff Coffee order, and we've got some heading out to the West Coast to our friend Nico Moreno. Excited to spread the word about Kickoff Coffee. We will have some Kickoff Coffee you can actually purchase in person in Fayetteville next Thursday for our live show Thursday evening. Jessica Charman will be hanging out with us. It's in the international break, so we'll be talking about who knows what, all kinds of different things, kind of like today's show. It's going to be all over the place. I believe right now on the board, and this could change with silly season happening and rumors, got a lot of those to get into. We have a potential new member of CONCACAF to get into. We have Nations League to talk about. We've got Mexico and Uruguay from last night to talk about. But I want to bring this up just so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle a little bit. Arsene Wenger finally turning his attention away from trying to shoehorn a World Cup in every 2 years. Thank you, Arsene. Thank you. Thank you. And he's saying some things that I'm really intrigued by. And I'm not necessarily against. The quote that people have some are messing up entirely. He said, and this is in a big conversation about improving the overall quality of coaches, especially young coaches who coach young players. And we're going to continue this conversation as we go today. But the quote is, between the ages of 5 and 12, it's better to have no coach at all than a bad one. We need to train coaches better so they can do a good job. Arsene Wenger's not saying that you shouldn't have youth coaches. No. He's saying that a bad coach at those important ages in terms of skill development, in terms of setting the tone for what a player could be, it's better to have no coach than a bad coach. And I completely and utterly agree. You've seen it too many times in the youth game where you get a coach of 7-year-olds who is trying to run a tactical formation. You get a situation with 5 or 6-year-olds where you have a coach trying to have organized passing drills, not understanding child psychology to where 5 and 6-year-olds, they could care less about sharing anything, let alone a soccer ball. There's so many aspects of coaching these ages that are so critical. And if it's not done correct, Wenger's completely right here. It's better to be a kid who plays pick up unorganized, plays in the street, plays in the backyard. It's better for that than bad habits to start, or more importantly, bad feelings to start about the game. The most important thing at these ages, and yes, all the way up to 12, absolutely all the way up to 12, the most important thing is developing skill and developing love for the sport. That's it. It's not about winning. It's not about what your, I don't know what all the companies are that do rankings of teams are at this point, but it's not what your, Turkey Trotter Cup tournament ranking is with a team of 8-year-olds. That means absolutely nothing. You can have a plastic trophy on your shelf. It still means nothing. What it's about at those ages is making sure kids are developing skills, foundational skills, to be able to play and play well later on. Being able to use both feet, being able to use all parts of the foot, understanding simple passing, understanding how to shoot. And that's not all at 5 years old either, by the way. There's a progression here. It's about, most importantly, creating that love for the game. Because the majority of players might not have a left foot. I didn't have much of one. The lefties might not have a right foot, but they can get away with it a little bit more. They might not be able to string together a pass. They just might not be very athletic. That's okay. If you develop the love for the game at those ages and the kids have fun and they hang out with their friends or they meet new friends and they learn social skills. And from a soccer perspective, they love the game and they stay involved in the game. That's what you're looking for there. So Arsene Wenger's not saying you shouldn't have coaches for 5 to 12 years old players. He's saying that you need to have good ones and you need to have coaches who know what they're doing. And it's not about coaching world champions at 8 years old. It's about development. We're going to continue to talk about this as we go. Right now with an international break, we can stretch out a little bit and do some different things like that. But that quote is making the rounds, and I think it's really interesting. And it's different in every country. You know, every country has its own kind of culture in this. U.S. youth sports is its own animal at times. And every sport's different. In the sport we talk about here, there's some certain things you got to do at those ages, and tactics and winning and championships and those things are at the very bottom of the list. So hopefully Arsene Wenger has now come up with a better focus. It's not about trying to make a 2-year World Cup. Let's put one of the best coaches of recent times. Let's put one of the best coaches, I don't know, on making coaching better across the world, rather than having an extra World Cup tournament. Please. Can we bury that one and give Arsene a more important job? Because if he can help progress this, he'll have a far bigger impact on the game as a whole, and maybe even a bigger impact than he had as a coach. If he can help transform how coaches are developed and start to do that in some countries where maybe they have their own ideas and might not want to listen initially, keep going and keep working on it, and we'll see some progress for sure. Kickoff Coffee presents our kickoff segment. Big partners of the show. Again, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Go to the website, order your coffee, put in the code soccer down here 15. You'll get 15% off. And then know that 10% of the proceeds that Kickoff Coffee bring in go to soccer-based youth development organizations, all trying to give the kids out there a better life and using soccer to do it. And we're happy to play a small part in that, supporting a group that does a great job with it in Kickoff Coffee. So, guys, thankfully, Arsene has been given a much more important task here. Jarrett, you played baseball a whole lot longer than I did. I had 1 year of baseball, and the coach that I had made me not really enjoy the baseball too much playing, and that's what led me to soccer. So thank you, I guess. Throwing chairs in the dugout with 7 and 8 year olds, not really recommended as a good tactic. But what's the vibe there? And John, I mean, you can speak more from like high school football or, football, which is later, but you can speak to youth coaching as well. I think at times it's too easy, Jarrett, for youth coaches to get hung up on winning whatever tournaments in front of them and winning, rather than developing kids as players and as people.
Yeah, and I feel like the first of those is the one that's viewed as most important, and that can be problematic. You get to this idea, especially, with travel ball, where it's you want to develop, and you're developing by going to tournaments and overexerting your young body, basically, and over specializing in one sport instead of playing multiple sports, and working and developing different parts of the body, different muscle groups, different different gross motor processes and fine motor processes. And when you're focusing just on, okay, we're going to go play all these tournaments and we're going to do all this and we're going to win them all. And if we don't, then how will we know if anyone's paying attention to little Johnny as he's, thrown a ton of pitches or he's played a ton of soccer matches and he's running himself into the ground. It's this balance of you got to find the right coach, not just for health and development, but for you, because you can have a coach who's great. And this we can jump into this too, and this is another can of worms of players jumping around all over the place trying to find like, oh, well, they need to be on this team. Okay, now they need to be on this team. Okay, now they need to be on this team. And finding that right fit and finding the right coach who fits you. Because, I mean, I've had a lot of coaches in my life. Some of them I got along with great. Some of them I didn't. And some of them helped me, and some of them they didn't. And those always did not intersect. I had coaches I really didn't care for personally who were really good at what they did and got a lot out of me. And you learn to build a relationship with them in like it's a little more tense, but you're taking something out of it. I had coaches who I absolutely loved, but I didn't learn a lot from. Like,
Yeah.
you got to kind of find that balance for yourself, but you're looking out for developing the kid, but you're also looking out for, to your point, the personnel development, to like developing a decent human being. Because like I lost track of how many people I heard growing up like, we're molding young men. I'm like, yeah, but I've
Like,
seen the way
are
some
you?
of these coaches act. I don't necessarily want you developing me in
Yeah.
hindsight.
Yeah. One thing to touch on before you jump in, John. I don't know how much this happens in other sports. I imagine that it doesn't happen as often there as it does in soccer. Maybe basketball with AAU, which is a little more similar of a structure. The overwhelming majority of clubs, that's not really fair. I'm going to say the majority, and I feel pretty good about saying that, of clubs in the metro Atlanta area started because not even a player switched clubs to like say, I'm going to go over here because I'm being sold that I should go here and it'll help me get noticed by scouts and et cetera, et cetera. You're getting coaches and entire teams going to start new clubs. You have new clubs. You have all these clubs all over the metro area, and so many of them started because I can do it better than the club I'm at can do it. Let's go do this, or then groups band together and do it. And that's happened going back to the 80s. I mean, it's not like a new thing, but it's maybe expanded a little bit more in the last decade or so. It's crazy. Just the balance, John, of player development, which is part of it. I mean, if you're gonna, if I'm going to put my kid into playing soccer, I want him to learn skills. I don't want him to, not come out of it knowing how to play.
Yeah.
But there is a personal development as well. And I completely agree with Arson at those ages from a soccer perspective. At those ages, if you have a bad coach, they're going to do more damage than somebody not having a coach.
Quick story with me. I did the community sports thing growing up with baseball as well. It wasn't like the organized stuff where you're pushing to tournaments and you're traveling the Southeast and that kind of stuff. But when I was in that, I was closer to 12 than I was to 5, but I was in that, I was in the early teens playing first base one day, and our coach was type A plus. There's no way around it. And I made the fatal mistake of looking down and clearing areas around first base with a runner on first. Pitcher throws the ball toward me in a pickoff attempt, and obviously, since I'm doing cleaning duties, I don't see the ball come whizzing past me. Guy goes to second base. Coach says to me, literally out loud in front of parents and everybody there, "It will be a cold day in hell before you play first base ever again." Had that happen to me when I was a teen. So suffice to say, from that moment on, I wasn't really a fan, A, of that coach, and B, really playing organized baseball in that whole organization because of what was going on. I didn't want to deal with all that kind of stuff. I would rather have the individual, like Arson says. I would rather have somebody who, cares about the full person. I would rather have a bad coach than, I would rather have no coach than a bad one at all. I mean, when I go to cover high school football and I hear about head coaches who will spend time with that 6, 7, 8, then the middle school and all that kind of stuff, but he's not coaching. He's just kind of there and he's just seeing how things are. He's not interjecting in the process. He's just there more for the moral support and guidance and being there as a part of the full picture. That is what I'm seeing a lot. And the more successful programs, frankly, are the ones that have that head coach who's not the overbearing one that wants to sit there and see the 8-year-old plow another 8-year-old, that he's there just more for support than anything else.
Well, that's a different, but John, that's a completely different scenario. That person is a high school coach, not coaching the middle school kids.
Yeah, and
it's not that they're not coaching,
and he's not imposing his,
but he's not their coach. That's
right.
what I'm saying. Like that's not what I'm talking about. He's not their coach. So if he comes in and he's imposing and he's not their coach and he's imposing that to another coach, that's a whole different can of worms that is ridiculous. I make sure I'm understanding. Like, you're talking about a high school coach who goes to another program, like a middle school program.
Yeah, that's
where
still
he's not
tied,
the coach.
Yeah, that's
Tied
tied
to, I know it's tied to it, but he's not their coach. So yeah,
Right.
if he's making it worse for him and he's not their coach, then he's got some serious issues.
Yeah, and I've seen that too.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's but that's high school sports. And look, as you get older, it's a different conversation too. And we've talked about this a little bit with the balance between winning and development. 5 to 12 years old, anybody getting hung up on results needs to get a reality check.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get a reality check because it means nothing in the grand scheme of things. If you win games as a 10-year-old, it means nothing about how good of a player you can be down the road. Absolutely zero, nothing, meaningless. What's important at that age, and this is, I think, universal in all sports, but in soccer, it's very, very important. You have to develop foundational skills. There are certain skills that if you don't develop them very young, you're always going to be behind. And I mean, I can speak to this from my experience, and I played back in the dark ages. Little things. And the biggest thing that I always think about that's so different from how I was brought up, and it's not my coach's fault because this is how you coached at this time, especially in this country. I had a great coach. I'm not here if I didn't have Coach Mike at the Clayton County YMCA. I mean, he absolutely developed the love of the sport for me and taught me how to play. But at that time in this country, you did not teach a player to lift their foot to control a ball. You didn't use the bottom of your foot. Now that's just second nature. Using the sole of your foot to roll the ball and do things. That's second nature. As a kid, no, that's not how you were taught at all. That was bad because it might get under your foot or whatever. That was bad. That's one little thing about how things have changed. I never really developed much of a left foot. You know, I could have played in college. I could have played small college at that time, but I'd already decided to go to UGA. I wouldn't have ever went any further than that because I didn't have a good enough left foot. I didn't develop that as a kid. You need to develop that as a 5 to 12-year-old. You need to learn how to dribble as a 5 to 12-year-old. That's where it's most important. And what happens far too often in those games, don't dribble, don't be a ball hog, pass. At the youngest ages, the younger scale at 5 to 12, dribble. Practices should be almost all dribbling because you're not going to pick that up later. Why? Because later results do start to matter. Later results become more important. Tactics become important because of that. You're not teaching an 8-year-old how to play right back. You can teach some basic principles of how to defend somebody 1v1, but you're not teaching them the nuance of playing right back. One, you're not playing 11 aside, and if you are, that's a bigger problem. Two, like tactics don't matter. They change. Tactics don't matter there. It's about the skills. Teach
I'm
the
just picturing
later.
someone trying to like get a bunch of 7-year-olds to play tiki taka.
Yes, it's happened. I've seen.
I know it has.
I've seen every scale of it, Jared. I've seen that. I've seen coaches teach 7-year-olds all the tricks that you can imagine, and they can do the tricks in a warm-up, but can't actually use them in a game. I've seen coaches have 7-year-olds in a rigid formational shape. Like all these things that are just, no, those are the coaches Arson's talking about. Those are the ones. Because he's talking about it from a soccer perspective. I think there is a bigger conversation. These ages are so critical, and especially now, if you love the sport, if you are in any kind of a leadership position in the sport, whether real or just being influential, I think these are things that have to be talked about because kids today have so many options of things to do. If you want this game to grow like it can, if you're involved in any aspect of it and you want it to grow, one of the most important things that has to change is the uber competitiveness for the youngest kids in soccer because it's meaningless. At those ages, it's got to be fun. It's got to be close to home. You got to have coaches who are told what's important and what's not. And you can take any parent you want, show them activities, work with them, tell them what to do and what not to do, and make sure they do it because it's very easy for the parents to get hung up on the results. I get that. But you can teach that. Directors of coaching can teach that. They can have a positive influence. And most important thing is those kids need to graduate from that point, because generally you go to 12 years old and you're playing 11v11 and you're playing real soccer, much closer to the real thing because it's on a normal size field and it's a bigger game. I know you do have some 9v9. Let's not get hung up on semantics here. That's where you can get into the other stuff. But if you don't develop the love of the game and the foundational skills at the youngest ages, those kids aren't making it to 12 and still playing. They're going to do something else. And if you want the game to grow from whether it's great players, skilled players, or just people in the stands at games, I don't know, maybe buying tickets to the U.S. men's national team, U.S. women's national team games. If they didn't have a good soccer experience as a kid, they're not doing that. Probably not. So the stuff's got to change. It's interesting what Arson will do because, I mean, Jarrett, Arson was seen as one of the real forerunners to bringing a lot of modern things to the English game. I mean, talking about diet and eating properly, like that was shocking when he shows up in London at Arsenal. He's a very forward-thinking guy. I think this could be the perfect role for him within FIFA and in the world of the game.
Yeah, it could be. Use your energy for something good there, Arson. By all means, please. Please do something other than try and sell us a cheap excuse as to why you want every 2-year World Cup just so you can make a couple bucks.
I want to believe that he was told to do that.
Yeah,
I do too.
I'm going to go with that until I'm told otherwise, and I'm probably still not going to believe it until I have the tapes.
I'm going to believe that the check was just clearing, and the number of zeros on the end of that check was just absurd. And
I could just see Johnny Infantino like banging on the door, like, "Keep going, Arson, keep going, keep telling 2-year World Cup. It's the greatest thing ever. Keep going."
And yeah, to Katie's point, have kids do other things. Don't specialize. Your 6-year-old doesn't need to specialize.
At those ages, absolutely. Like there comes a point down the road, and it's not the same for every kid.
No, it's not. And if your kid is like 13, 14 years old, and there's a very clear demonstration of, okay, this kid might be special and might have something like getting attention
for the Atlanta United Academy.
Yeah, you've been selected for academies, youth national teams are looking at you, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's a different situation.
Yeah.
But your average kid, like me when I was a kid, like all I wanted to do was play baseball. Like I literally wanted to play year round.
Yeah.
I wish I'd had someone saying you need to play other things because to her point, I mean, we even had kids in high school. Like our ultimate frisbee team was problematic when we played other schools because our ultimate frisbee team was full of wide receivers and wing players from the basketball team because they were playing ultimate frisbee because it's a great sport for cardio, but it's also great if you can cut, like lacrosse player kind of quick cuts. So we used to put like wide receivers on that team who were basically running routes and just abusing other schools. It was hilarious. I mean, it wasn't a sanction. It was a club sport basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, do that. Play. Introduce your kids to different things at a young age. Let them try different things. You never know what they'll do. Don't worry about, well, they need to specialize in this because this is what we think is going to be. Let them try everything. Figure it out. Also, free unstructured play is ridiculously important, and I feel like sometimes we just don't.
Massive part of it. I'm sure we're going to continue talking about this. We'll get some questions from the Twitch pitch, but we've also got somebody else who can help us with this. Jarrett, we'll talk to you in hour number 2.
Yes, that sounds good.
All right, we'll talk to you then. We're going to pick your brain on some different things this week, Michael. It's international break. You never know what can happen.
Sounds good.
So Arsene Wenger made some comments. It sounds like they've actually got him doing something more important than trying to shoehorn a second World Cup into a 4-year cycle now, which is good. He made a comment, and it was in a bigger conversation about better developing talent, but also better developing coaches. And he said that for 5 to 12-year-olds, it's better to have no coach than a bad coach. And I agree with him completely. And we were kind of getting into that age group specifically. I do want to touch on it from a mentoring and an off the field perspective too, because I think that's a very underrated element of this. But for me at those ages, too often I hear and hear about and see coaches who get worked up on the results, they get worked up on the rankings, winning tournaments, and not enough of the skill development, and most importantly, just the love of the game.
Definitely. And I did read that quote, and to a grave extent, I agree with him as well. I think that there's tremendous value in being part of a team, and understanding your role within a team and being with teammates and the socialization of everything. So, that goes into it as well. But strictly from a coach perspective, I understand what he's saying, because a coach can suck the love and fun out of the sport. And that can really, really affect a kid's love for the game for a long, long time. And so you never want to do that, especially with a young child who's learning and growing and figuring out what they want to do and like to do, and find enjoyment. So yeah, I agree on that aspect. A coach has the capability of doing that, unfortunately, and so do parents as well.
100%.
With their antics on the sidelines, with the amount that they push their kids sometimes, or the stress that they put on them, they have that capability as well. So yeah, it was interesting to hear him say that, but I do tend to agree.
Do you remember your first season playing soccer? What was your team for your first season, your first team? What were they called?
Ooh.
I had to think back to this. I remembered mine.
I don't. I remember we had gray jerseys, and I think I only remember this probably because there was a picture in my bedroom for a really long time. I think I was playing up like a couple of age groups, so they were older kids, but I do not remember the team name. I know it was just a youth Cranston league up in Rhode Island, but I don't remember the team name.
I was on the Bandits at the Clayton County YMCA. We wore yellow and black, and I think the reason I remember it is I was really lucky. I mean, I had no exposure to soccer until playing it in gym class when I was in, I guess it would have been second, third grade, and had an awful baseball experience and wanted to do something different in the spring and did soccer. And it was my coach that, like I said earlier, I'm probably not doing this if I didn't have that coach that instilled the love of the game for me. And Coach Mike, he was what got me going. And I remember all the teams I played on with him. I was lucky that he moved up with our group up to U12. And it's just the effect that those people can have. And it's both skills and how they deal with you as a kid. And that's a tough balance for a coach. And it does require that kind of training that's important.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. That's true from kids all the way up to grown men playing professionally, right?
There's that too.
I think we've had that conversation between coaching and managing,
yes.
and which is more important. And, it's down there with the kids as well, right? Of course, you can get a kid, a parent that actually knows something about soccer that's coaching, but at the same time, if they're not making it enjoyable, they're not making it fun, they're not communicating with the kids correctly, then it doesn't matter what they're learning on the field, because, if they don't like it, they're not going to continue to do it. And that's the most important thing when they're young, especially under the age of like 10. Even my son didn't really love soccer until he started scoring goals and found out, oh, this is fun. So yeah, it's a slippery slope out there, and you lose kids, and it takes them a while to come back sometimes. And we had something similar up here a little bit with my son in baseball, and just wasn't getting a good vibe from his coach, and not having a fun experience with it, and I could see the dejection growing a little bit, and to a point where I was almost like, man, should I pull him out? Not because I want to quit on the team and I don't want to instill that, but at the same time, I could see like, man, we're in a spot here where he's losing the joy of playing baseball that he once had. So thankfully things have turned around, but yeah, I do understand it.
Do you remember those first coaches or mentors when you were in elementary school and middle school that helped reinforce the love of the game for you, and specifically what they did to help reinforce that love of the game for you?
Yeah, I had a really good coach named Stacy DeCastro up in Rhode Island for, God, I don't know, 7 years or so. And we had a good group that was together for a long time. and he did a really, really good job of balancing between being strict and taking responsibility as kids, out there with your actions and being on time and your attitude and stuff, and just having fun. Like a lot of our practices, we'd show up and we'd get a jersey when you showed up and you just scrimmage. And it was just round robin, just on, off, on, off, on, off for the whole time. No coaching, nothing, just playing and having fun. A lot of our practices were like that. And, but I also remember doing a lot of push-ups because, kids were goofing off or I was goofing off or things were happening. So, he just did a really, really good job of finding that balance between, you have to be serious and respectful when you're out there. But at the same time, hey, this is a game. Go out there and have fun and express yourself and enjoy it and, work your tail off and enjoy being with your teammates and that type of attitude. And I thought he found that balance really well. And I think it instilled that love of the game in me for life.
I feel like one of the biggest things that U.S. Soccer as a federation and just kind of as a community has done in the past decade is coaching has dramatically improved. I think the coaching licensing program, coaching education, I know Claudio Reyna did a ton of things before he went into the pro side of things. It's an area that U.S. Soccer can really look at positively. It's not perfect, but it's an area where you're getting better players now because you have better coaches, in my opinion, anyway.
100%. Definitely. I mean, the facilities obviously help, and the money and the sport growing, the recognition and everything. But you're right. I mean, anyone my age or older, right? I mean, under the age of probably 13 or so, you were just having a mom or a dad out there who knew nothing about soccer. You were lucky if you had somebody that knew something about soccer.
I was really lucky to have, it wasn't a parent. He was a young guy out of college. I think he had played at some small school. So I got lucky with that. And he just loved the game and wanted us to love it like he did, and that was rare.
Oh, exactly. And we just talked about there's benefits to that too. It's just somebody that loves the game and even if they don't know tactics that well, right, or can coach anything, but just instilling that love in the game is super impactful. But I had my parents helped out a little bit at practices before I got on Stacey DiCascio's team, which I was just talking about, and they knew nothing about soccer at the time, right? Nothing. So you weren't really learning anything. It was just kind of going out there and having fun, which obviously is important, right? But at the same time, that's where those other countries are so far advanced from us technically and tactically, seeing the game a little bit, before they're even 10, 12 years old. They have some of those fundamentals down because they're learning those things at a younger age than we were, and that's changed now. You're right. I think that we've got a generation now that has grown up with soccer that knows a bit more about the game and can teach that to the younger kids that aren't in Atlanta United academies and different upper echelon academies, right? A broader range of kids are learning the fundamentals of soccer at a younger age, so it's definitely helping us.
I feel like where we're at right now is, up to the U17s or so. You can take a team of U.S. players, put them up against anybody. They look the same. They can fit right in. There's really not a gap. I think it's U20 and maybe, up to like a U23 that you start to see that gap. You think it's down to just the differences in professional development once you get to that stage, and in other countries, maybe it's a little more formalized?
Yeah, it really depends on where you are. I think that, there's some leagues, some teams in particular have a real emphasis on developing young talent. And a lot of people have the misconception that once you've turned pro, right, it's just about getting reps and getting experience. And yes, that is super important. But you can still be coached. You can still learn a lot. There's no doubt about it. I mean, when I was mid-20s playing over in Denmark, we had some great coaches. The current coach of the Danish national team and his assistants, they were so good. I learned so much under him. And then I came back and I'm 30 and I'm still learning stuff under Greg. And then I learned stuff under Tata, right? It's continually learning things, even though I had a wealth of experience. And I think that there's definitely some clubs that don't put the emphasis on developing that talent, right? It's about a win right now. And Tata was a good example, honestly, in Atlanta, right? A guy like Miles did not develop under Tata as fast as he would have developed maybe somewhere else where, he could have gotten more reps, or just even not reps, but just more one-on-one coaching and more training with him. But, for Tata, it was like, my top 15 guys that I need to win championships right now. And that's what the focus was. And, I understand that, right? He's based on, how does he win, not how does he develop the young talent coming up. Right. And so it's just different philosophies. And that's why, we talk about some guys transferring over to Europe. You talk about what league are they going into and how much of a chance are they going to get, and England's that way, right? You don't really develop talent in England. It's win now. In other leagues, you get a little more development. So yeah, there's definitely a balance there. And, but it really comes down to the team and what they prefer and what they're after.
So if you were just Michael, not Michael Parkhurst with MLS history, and all of the stuff that you've learned over time, if you had your knowledge base, but you were Michael, dad, coach, and you were a coach in one of these leagues that maybe your son is in, or that age group, that 5 to 12, what would you be doing with your team to where they would both learn the game but have fun at the same time? What would those practices and what would that approach be for Coach Michael out there in the day?
Yeah, I think ages, and I did help out a little bit when my kids were like young, 5, 6 years old, and it's tough. It is tough.
It's a whole different world.
Oh my God, the patience that is required is.
I did my one season with that age group, and yep.
Bless those coaches, bless those teachers. I mean, unbelievable.
It's a hard gig, and I think like maybe what we're starting to learn is those coaches, they don't get the love that they should. We look at the coaches who win like U17 championships. Those 5 and 6 year old coaches have a harder time, and it's not that it's a more important job, but if they get it right, they can have a bigger impact.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think between that 5 and 8, right? It's all about engaging with the kids and making it fun, right? You have to get them to love soccer before you can try and tell them, hey, work on these moves, and this is why this is important, and why are we learning to pass a ball, right? Even my son, right, at the time when he was like, I don't know, 9 years old, and I'm like, hey, let's go outside and practice passing. I know how to pass a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we professionals.
Yes.
Yeah, but we do it every single day. So I think at that age it's strictly about having fun. And even up till 10-ish, I don't even think you need to teach tactics.
I thoroughly agree.
I think it's just going out there and having fun and understanding maybe different roles of positions and what's expected of you and what you need to do on both sides of the ball. But really, it's just technically getting your skills down, right? Having the ball as much as possible and getting comfortable with the ball and learning how to play as a team and when to pass and when to dribble and in those situations. But at that age, it's really just instilling the fun. It honestly is. It sets them up. And like I said, the free play, where you're just going out there and scrimmaging and letting kids figure it out sometimes on their own is really beneficial, right? You don't want to create robots at too young of an age. They can get those tactics later. And the tactics is easier to learn than it is the technical aspect later on, right? If you have that base of technical skills at a younger age, that's really valuable.
Yeah, when we did a curriculum, or at least a very broad idea of how we wanted our coaches at Soccer in the Streets to go, the team that we came up with to kind of follow was 5 to 8. It's a lot of individual work, a lot of skill development using all parts of the foot, both feet. 8 to 12, it was a lot of like combination, like pairs and maybe groups of 3 or 4 where you'd see some combination work. Tactics are, you get to 11v11, you can worry about tactics at that point. I think too many times, like I see at the young ages, teams that are well drilled, but they're robotic, like you said, and that doesn't work anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. Because then kids are just when things aren't going well, right, in a game, they're just looking over the coach like, oh, what do we do now?
Yes.
Right? It's not working. So what do we do now? And you want kids to be able to try and figure those things out on their own, or have the confidence to try and figure it out. Whether it works or not. Getting back to what I would do in a training session, I can't stand it, no matter what the sport. When I see youth kids standing around in a one-person line, and there's 8 or 9 kids in the back that are all messing around.
Yes.
And you're just in like a shooting line, or in baseball, you're in a fielding line, or whatever it might be. It drives me insane. There's so many different things you could do to involve more kids, or if you happen to have an assistant coach, right, splitting the group up or something. But those long lines is just not fun for anybody, and then it makes your job even tougher, because then kids are just goofing around more. Pet peeve of mine,
no doubt. But what's your thought on versatility? And I mean that in an athletic sense, about playing multiple sports, even though there's the one that there's your focus on, that it's your number one sport. What about playing other sports when things aren't in season? What's your thought about playing multiple sports?
I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. I've read articles about, the overuse and injuries, and how no matter what your sport, if you're doing it year round, how your body and the bones don't get a break and a chance to grow and develop, and how that, even if it's not leading to injuries at the current time frame, right? What is it doing, when you do get older, right? And does it make you more susceptible to injury later on? So that in alone, I think, is a benefit. But I also think you learn things in other sports that correlate to the sport that you are playing. And I always talk about it in baseball. I don't know if I spoke to it with you guys, but I loved baseball growing up. And it was a sport where I was taught at a young age, you always had to be thinking, what are you going to do with the ball when it comes to you, right? And I remember being on the baseball field, and I was playing second base, shortstop, and I always was thinking, okay, if the ball goes here and I can field it, am I going to go to second, or am I going to go to first? And, okay, how many outs are there, and where are guys? And always thinking ahead, right? What's going to happen? Then I get on the soccer field, and I'm doing it on the soccer field too, right? And that became one of my huge strengths about reading the game and anticipating it and knowing where the ball is going to go before it happens. And I really think that I honed that on the baseball field. And, I think that there's lots of lessons you learn in different sports that can help out in soccer, and vice versa. Not to mention, I just think, it's nice for kids to be able to enjoy different things if they want to, rather than have the stress of like, oh, if I take a month off, or 6 weeks off from soccer, I'm going to fall too far behind. That's not the case.
I'm sure that's something that is maybe starting to pop up with some of the kids and families that you're involved with Beyond Goals, where they might be getting to that point that they're getting called into the Atlanta United Academy, or getting into a top team at their local youth club, and they have to decide, like, is it 12 months a year? Is it, taking a season off? What does that look like? Are you starting to see more of those things pop up with the kids you're working with?
Definitely. And I understand it, because, I've gone through it with my own kids. When we were still in Georgia, my son was only, 8, 9, and we were trying to play rec baseball and, academy soccer. He was, U9 academy soccer, but it was a challenge to do both of those at the same time. Right. And both of them are not year round, but, close to it, 10 months, 9 months. So, it's a challenge. So I get that. And as much as coaches say, oh yeah, we're fine with you playing other sports, you tell them, hey, I can't miss this game because I have to go to this other game. You get a side eye, and you get, judgment. So I understand that the pressure that families and kids face at a young age to pick a sport, which is a shame. And I think a lot of it comes down to the kid will probably let you know if you give them the freedom and the space to make decisions on their own. Some kids love the sport, right? I played baseball up until high school, and that's when I, cut out all other sports and focused strictly on soccer. And for me, I loved it. And I went to IMG and was down there for 4 years playing soccer 6 days a week, just loving it. But the amount of kids that I saw burn out down there because they didn't love it, way outnumbered the kids that loved being down there and playing every day. So that burnout is real, and it really kills the love for some kids. And so that's a factor. So it's not an easy decision. And I'd say that there's not one way to go about it, because, when you have the opportunity to join Atlanta United Academy or something when you're 12, right, you can't get better coaching, better facilities, better opportunity at that age than being in a system like that. But at the same time, I don't think it's the end all be all. If you say, I'm not ready for that yet, let my kid continue to play at his other team where he can then play basketball or baseball or, whatever sport in the off season, and then maybe see if he's ready to join or she's ready to join in a couple of years. I don't think you have to make that decision at 12 years old where it's now or never.
You mentioned another aspect of the love of the game that I think is so critical. It's talked about this with Haji Wright with the U.S. men's national team this week. Haji was the guy coming through that U17 national team that everybody was looking at. And Pulisic ended up becoming the one to break through, but Haji Wright was the one that everybody thought was going to break through. Dortmund scouts come to watch Haji Wright. They see Pulisic. They end up going with Pulisic. It's the love of the game when those things happen, because so much of getting the breakthrough, so much of getting seen, so much of having that long career is being in the right place at the right time and sticking with it. For some of those super talented young players who at these young ages don't have the love of the game developed, or it's coached out of them, they don't have that, they don't stick with it. They end up walking away. And when things don't, fall for them easily, we lose those kids. It's why it goes back to those young coaches at the young ages being so important to develop that love of the game, so those talented kids stick with it later and maybe get that second or third opportunity.
Definitely. And that's why it's so important that you instill the love in the game early, right? So that if they do go through a rough patch at any point, right, they still can fall back and say, or have the confidence, or still have that love to say, I'll bounce back, I'll find another team, I'll find another opportunity, I'll take a season off and I'll come back to it or whatever. You can't have success in anything in life if you don't enjoy what you're doing, right? You can have some success, but
Sure.
You can't have ultimate success. You can't find your top level in whatever it is that you do, because you won't put the dedication in that's really required. That you have to really enjoy and to reap the benefits, knowing that dedication is worth it. Yeah, it's tough.
Was there a time for you at IMG that you thought, this might not be for me?
No.
Always had it.
Always loved it. But I will say, I saw a ton of kids burn out. Actually, you know what? I'll tell one story, and I tell it a lot, that I got to train with the under 17 national team when I was down there at IMG. I wasn't down there with the national team. I was just down there at IMG.
Okay.
But I got invited to train with the national team for about 2 months while I was down there, the under 17 national team. It was the worst 2 months of my life. I hated every single day of it. I had zero fun. I had zero confidence. I couldn't wait for it to end. I had absolutely no joy in playing soccer during those 2 months. And some of that was on me, and some of that was on the environment of, 16-year-old kids not welcoming in a newcomer, and, the challenges and me being the outsider trying to train with these guys that had been together for a while, and not too many welcoming people in that group. But that was a time where it was really, really tough for me, where it zapped all my confidence. I was a terrible soccer player for those 2 months, and I came out of it thinking, holy smokes, what a terrible experience. But I learned a lot of valuable lessons that helped me in the future. It didn't suck my love out of the game so much so that I didn't want to play.
Right.
It just sucked the experience and the day-to-day, where I couldn't wait to get out of that environment. But there were valuable lessons that I learned about how to be a good teammate, and how to deal with confidence issues and those types of things.
How much reminding when you're talking to your mentees, when you and Greg are discussing things with younger folks with Beyond Goals, how much reminding do you have to do these days about enjoying the game and enjoying the experience? Because I imagine pressures are ramped up more. They are today than they have been, say, a handful of years ago, just from the pressure to succeed. You've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. How constant has the message been to enjoy what you're doing?
Yeah, it's frequent, and just as much as it is with the kids, it is with the parents, right? To tell them, hey, it's just a game, right? You know, most of these kids are not going to remember in a few years whether they won that U10 fall tournament that you guys are going absolutely berserk on the sidelines about, right? They're not, and most of these U10 kids only care about the ice cream afterwards, you know, things that are the pizza party at the end of the tournament, or whatever it might be, right? So just as much as it's with the parents of, you know, they're trying to live out their glory days or get their kid a college scholarship when they're 10 years old and 11 years old, and it's just absurd. But yes, with the kids as well, right? To understand, yeah, of course, there's more pressure as you co-op, and you know that pressure sometimes is a good thing because there's expectations, and there's only expectations because you've earned it and you've showed that you can play at a certain level, so that's why people expect you to play to that level. So it's a good thing sometimes, but yeah, it's out there to have fun, and it's tough to say that, right? Because of course you want to win, right? And you have more fun when you win. So it goes hand in hand. But you know, the kids that understand that, okay, you know, if I'm continuing to get better and grow as a player and as a person, you know, these individual games and individual performances mean less, and there's less pressure, knowing that like the bigger picture, I'm improving and I'm gaining towards an ultimate goal, you know, of just player development and personal development.
I want to end with the same question, but kind of to two different groups. So you get invited to go speak to an A license coaching course that are going to be working with youth. What would you tell those coaches to keep in mind, whether it's from your experience right now with Beyond Goals or your experience as a player? What would be the number one thing you would ask them to keep in mind in their jobs?
Oh man, it's a good question. Yeah, there's a few things I feel like I would want to say.
Yeah, you can say as much as you want.
Yeah, I think I still think number one is make sure they're having fun and make sure they're enjoying it. But you know, number two is I don't think you need to have positional specialization at a young age. Yes. You know, I think it's valuable to play different positions. I played striker when I was younger. I think that helped me when I went to be a defender, because I was thinking, okay, if I'm the striker, where would I be running? What would I be doing? What should I be looking for? What runs would I make? And then I'm defending that before it even occurs. You know, or you get the experience of playing as a D mid every now and then me as a center back, I'm not going to ping a ball into a D mid because, oh, now I know how that feels to get that pass, and what I'm thinking about is going behind me, right? You don't know that unless you're in that position. So I think it's valuable to play different positions rather than just one position over and over and over again. I think that you gain a real understanding and appreciation of what your teammates are going through, so you're not just barking at them on the field. That's another thing that I would instill. But also continue to work on the basics. There's so many people that think that, you know, because I know how to pass the ball, I don't need to work on it. But it is a skill, and, you know, talking about the right weight and the right position and where do you pass it to a player and how hard and when and the timing and everything. You know, even guys as professionals, I'd see like really screw around on a passing drill and then get out there in a game and, you know, under pressure, they're giving the ball away. And then you think, well, you know, you could help yourself here if you weren't, you know, fooling around during a passing drill that you think is beyond you. You know, that's a real understanding of knowing that nothing is beyond you as a professional, right? You can still learn the basics and improve on the basics every day. So, you know, those are a few things that I would instill on them. you know, and also just make sure that you're developing the character as well. That's a super important aspect of it, right? You can't let the best players just do whatever they want, have this attitude, right? Because they won't always be the best player. And then that attitude will severely hurt them. You know, I tell kids right now, right? You've got aspirations to go play at like a Wake Forest. I know the coach there very, very well. He's not going to take you if you have an attitude. You know, you go to talk to the Wake Forest program. They are, you know, 25 really bright, good gentlemen on and off the field, like good people. You won't play. I don't care how good you are. He will not take you. So, you know, that coaches need to focus on that as well, the human being aspect of it.
So when we get Cindy Parlow-Cone to have you do this, then after you talk to the A license, she takes you over to the pro license group. And, you know, that's the ones who are, I'm glad it's a license they've created, frankly, because I think the A license and the pro license are completely different worlds. But they take you there and you're talking to coaches who are either in USL and MLS. You know, they're all professional coaches. What advice would you give them from your experience?
To understand their strengths and weaknesses and have a real honest conversation about those things, and surround yourself with people that can help you out in the areas that aren't your strengths, right? If developing talent is not your strengths, find an assistant coach or two that is, and that will do that can help you out. If it's not tactically, right, that's okay. You can still be a very successful coach without being super duper good tactically, right? If you are a very good manager of people and a good motivator of the team, you can have a lot of success. But find an assistant coach who can break down video and can talk X's and O's and help out, and not have that fear of like, oh, this guy's, you know, one-offing me that, you know, some coaches might have, right? I think it's super important to surround yourself with good people that can help you. So that would be my number one piece of advice, because I found too often there's coaches that are good at one and not good at the other. And if you have those people within your organization that can help out, it makes such a big difference. Tata was really good at that.
Yeah, I think something maybe it's coming to the fore this week with what's going on in Charlotte is you're finding that the coaches who are good man managers can get help maybe more easily than the great coaches on the field who struggle with the man management side.
Definitely. A lot of these Argentine coaches, and I don't know if I should label them Argentine, but South American coaches, I don't know if they're all Argentine. You know, I think we've had 3 fired this year, right? And we're saying, oh, we're getting away from the South American coach and we're going, you know, more towards the American coach again, right? And you're like, why? And then you read these stories. I don't know if you saw Chris Seitz's interview,
Yes.
You know, with Jillian there, and he's talking about like the weight thing and, you know, how much pressure there was and all these things. And you're like, you know, there's so much more to playing soccer than, you know, a number on a scale, and the pressure and things are just so different sometimes. And you're thinking that's just not an environment, obviously, where the human being aspect was being thought of, and like, how are guys feeling and reacting to things? You know, so and I think a lot of those coaches sometimes get wrapped up into that. You know, Tata really delegated well and had some guys that helped out. And, you know, we also had a veteran locker room that pushed back on a few things as well. That kind of found a happy medium to make things work. But, you know, I think that, again, that's another example of like just being good on the field isn't enough to have success.
We could go all day. You've got a lot of things to do, but thank you. This was a really fun conversation. I like when we get to kind of bridge the gap a little bit. It's fun to talk games. Maybe not as much fun right now. We need some results to turn our way, but it's fun to dig into the deeper aspects of it, especially the youth side, because it's so important. Definitely.
No, I could talk a while about it. I had a lot of different coaches, a lot of different experiences in different countries, and saw a lot of things. And, you know, there's not one way for success. I say that about everything, right? There's not one way to do anything in life. You know, it's more about how do you use your strengths to have success and help your surroundings with your weaknesses.
If there's one thing I could change about U.S. soccer, it would be getting people like you more involved in those aspects. I think other countries do a good job at keeping former pros who have so much to give and so much knowledge involved and being in influential spots. I think we're only slowly getting there. And I hope that changes soon, because you've got a level of expertise that I would like for you to talk to all those coaches that I just created the hypothetical about.
Maybe someday, hopefully.
One day we'll keep lobbying Cindy Parlow Cone. Michael, thank you for the time. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. You too. Bye-bye.
Be good, Jeff.
Michael Parkhurst. Make sure you're following him, MF Parkhurst, on the social medias. Make sure you're following BeyondGoalsMentoring.com, Beyond Goals Mentoring on Instagram, BG Mentoring on the Twitters. John, why don't you tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize?
I could certainly do that. QR code over my left shoulder. For those of you watching on Twitch, for odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. The turnkey process that makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment. We like that these days. We like being green. Green way about going things to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink, because when you reach under the sink, you spray the masking agent in the air. That's all you're doing. You're masking the odor. You're not attacking it. With the proven scientific formula that Eliminize has that attacks the issue all the way down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy. One of two ways. Using cubic feet or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go is the website for Eliminize, eliminize.com. But do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are talking to them from and addressing your concerns with Eliminize service. So your homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta on a Freestyle Friday where we had a really cool conversation just now with Michael Parkhurst. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
Good stuff. Still the same speed, though, or same amount of content.
Okay.
It has not changed at all.
Okay.
Might have to streamline a little bit more there.
Well, it just means less ad-libbing and getting through the copy.
Or that, possibly. Mexico would like some ad-libbing right now. 3-0 spanking by Uruguay last night. First off, U.S.-Uruguay will be a good one on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Second, our boy Tata is not in a good position right now in Mexico. It was a demolition job. Edinson Cavani scored 2 goals for Uruguay in the second half. 3-0. Game was played in Glendale, Arizona. Again, as we talked about yesterday when it came to Christian Pulisic's comments, which people are breaking bones trying to twist themselves into storylines on that and completely missing some of the point. I don't have the crowd in front of me. I don't have the number, but it looked pretty freaking good.
Yeah, I've got it on. I've got the replay on over my left shoulder, and at State Farm in Glendale, Arizona, looked pretty packed.
It's a large venue, and there are a lot of people there, and I don't think tickets were $5.
No.
And they were not happy leaving there, I would imagine. Just not a good performance. And you're getting to a point with Mexico where I can't see them making a change now. I can't see it. I don't think you're going to help yourselves, but I don't think it's looking good for them to get out of the group stage in the World Cup.
Yeah.
I just can't see that either.
You've got Ecuador next. Then you have your 2 Nations League matches with Suriname and Jamaica. And
actually, I take it back. If they lose to Ecuador, Suriname and Jamaica, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
If they lose to Ecuador, it's going to be harder for Tata to keep his spot. And I mean, some of this is down to the Mexican football culture, and in other countries, maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't be that big of an issue. In this one, with the time that you have, even though you're not going to have time to actually work with the squad, but just time, they have time to hire somebody. They have people who will lobby for that job. They have people that are available who will lobby for that job, and most of them work in the media and could step away from that pretty quickly. It's going to be, if they don't beat Ecuador, and that is nowhere near a guarantee, by the way, if they don't beat Ecuador, they're going to be in a really tough spot, and the pressure is going to get so intense on Tata Martino. I don't know if he necessarily survives that.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing for me right now. And this is, like I said, right now, with it being 2 days away, I just wanted to take a peek at the juice boxes. Mexico right now is a plus 102.
I'm not really worried about juice boxes on friendlies now.
Yeah. 224, and Ecuador winning is a plus 279. But yeah, I think that if the result is substandard against Ecuador, I could see the reactions being so reactionary that they do pull the trigger on Tata even before Nations League. But yeah, you look at the Nations League stuff and you could sit there. Yeah, it's Suriname and Jamaica. You should be able to handle your business there. And then you have the one August 31st against Paraguay, which is here at Mercedes-Benz. Is there going to be somebody different on the touchline by August 31st?
It's possible. It shouldn't be, but it's going to be harder to ignore. They have not progressed. They just flat out have not progressed. And that's a huge issue. And I don't know how they handle it.
I just, knowing the pressures both inside the national team and the organization, plus all the external pressures that you were talking about with everybody who's hunting for the gig and who's got a microphone and who's a mouthpiece and all these kinds of things, it just gets to that point of critical mass. And legitimately, I think that Ecuador could be that critical mass moment, regardless of the lack of logic that's attached to it, that you're getting into Nations League. And literally, those are the only matches that you have before the World Cup. It is Ecuador, Suriname, Jamaica, Paraguay. That's it before you go to Qatar. 4 matches, and all of this external pressure that's being put on El Tri right now. I could see it, and it just, the more that I see, the less that I sit there and I'm wondering, okay, Mexico, traditionally you get out of group, but the more pressure that I see external on everything going on right now with Mexico, I'm becoming less and less an individual that's going to sit there and say, this is not going to be a good trip to Qatar at all in the World Cup. Not one bit.
Hugo Sanchez infiltrated my computer, I think, and tried to knock me out because
I was going to say, I was just going to blame me punching a button or something.
No, it was my computer for some reason rebooted in the middle of it, and I blame Hugo Sanchez.
Okay.
Because I don't think he should be the coach at all. Not at all. I don't think they get any better there, but it's going to be harder to fight those arguments off. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with Tata. But wow, 3-0 loss to Uruguay. It's not pleasant right now in the conversation. Some other stuff yesterday. We've got the Nations League going in Europe, and just coming off of the long season with a World Cup at the end of the year. You've still got some spots to be determined in the World Cup. It's hard to get too excited about the Nations League, and I've generally been pleasantly surprised by the Nations League and the competitiveness, and having a little bit of meaning to it rather than friendlies, just a bunch of money grabs. It's better. But I did not really get too excited about Portugal 1-1 with Spain, even though that's a big game. It's just a little bit of that burnout right now. And this is a unique season. This is a unique year because of the World Cup and where it falls. But you're getting to that conversation again about how many games are you going to ask these guys to play? 4 games now in this window after a long season. Is that really the best idea? It shouldn't happen again, barring somebody else buying a World Cup and moving it to be played in the winter. It's FIFA. I put nothing past them.
Nope.
But they have to revamp the international calendar. And I'm going to pull Arsene Wenger back away from the coaching side of things, which is where I want him. But he started this mess, probably being prodded, about the World Cup every 2 years. One good byproduct of that conversation is a revamp of the international calendar, which needs to happen. Fewer windows on the national team side, but more meaningful ones is where I would like it to be. The game has progressed now worldwide, and for the longest time, as I'm watching the folks on Today NA, very animatedly angry about the game last night.
Mm-hmm.
The game has progressed past the days of the U.S. preparing for the 94 World Cup without players playing in, leagues and they had to create basically a club team out of the national team and play games all the time. We don't have that anymore really anywhere. The players need to play in the leagues. That's where they make their money. That's what's important in the day-to-day. I don't need all these extended national team times. Bring them in for games that mean something, and then they go back to their clubs. We don't need all these windows. Let's streamline it, figure things out in the long term with what a calendar looks like. There's talk now that CONMEBOL teams could go into the UEFA Nations League with that partnership between those two continents growing and growing and growing because South American teams don't have a Nations League. There's only 10 of them. Hey, CONCACAF, why don't you get on that? Maybe you missed the boat already. We don't need all these windows, and we need it structured differently. And this right now, I mean, Spain-Portugal should be a big game. I'm sure it was for some. Whatever. Czech Republic and Spain this weekend. Okay, sure. Czechs beat Switzerland 2-1. Erling Haaland had a goal. Norway beat Serbia away. They got their Group B4 campaign underway. Woo! I can't get excited about it right now because it's just at a bad time in the calendar to put much importance to this. Israel and Iceland, the 2-2 draw, entertaining. I'm sure all the entertainment was coming from Israel. 4-0 win for Georgia over Gibraltar. I'd probably be more interested in these games than the other ones right now because
Did San Marino score? That's my question.
They did not. Estonia 2-0 win over them. Kosovo beat Cyprus 2-0. Bulgaria 1-1 with North Macedonia. That's your run through of the UEFA Nations League. I know you were on the edge of your seats for that. A couple more bits of news. CONCACAF Nations League. Now, a little bit different conversation with CONCACAF, even though still I'm not jazzed about the CONCACAF Nations League right now because of where we are in the calendar. But at least for those smaller teams, the Nations League has actually turned out to be very, very important. All of the smaller club competitions have turned out to be very, very important. Very good stuff. Excited today at 4:30. The Turks and Caicos Islands are hosting Bonaire. Big game.
Bonaire's a road favorite.
Bonaire's a road favorite. You got numbers on that game?
I do. I got numbers on all of it.
Well, okay. I can understand numbers on Curacao and Honduras, but Turks and Caicos hosting Bonaire, and you got numbers?
I got numbers.
What are the numbers?
Turks and Caicos are plus 169. Your draws a plus 283, and Bonaire's a plus 120.
Bonaire doesn't matter where they play. Bonaire can beat anybody anywhere except for.
Well, and also today you've got Saint Martin and Saint Martin, different nations.
Saint Martin is hosting Aruba. Saint Martin is hosting the U.S. Virgin Islands. What are the numbers on that one? How's the U.S. Virgin Islands stacking up right now?
They're a road dog at a plus 194. Saint Martin is a plus 127. Your draw is a plus 2.25.
That is not for Saint Martin. That's for Jared Smith.
Peter and the Wolf.
It's not Peter and the Wolf, John. They're ripping off the Grinch.
So I'm the. Oh, nice.
You are the Grinch, and your mic is broken right now.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. There, I think your mic might want to work now.
Cool.
We'll see. I bring you back in now because there might be a newcomer to the CONCACAF Nations League, maybe for the next one, because next year you could have a new member of CONCACAF, and it could be Greenland.
That'd be so awesome.
Greenland.
Just magic.
Their football association, I don't know how they are the KAK, but I'm just going to roll with it. They have applied to join CONCACAF. They cannot join UEFA. Greenland is it a territory? What is their official designation with Denmark?
Effortings.
I need official Danish terminology here. They're like the Faroe Islands, I think, in the sense that they are Danish, but not quite Danish. They're not like full members of Denmark.
Constituent countries that form the Kingdom of Denmark, along with Denmark and the Faroe Islands.
Yes, constituent country.
They are a constituent country, and their constituency did not get them backed by the Danish Football Association to join UEFA. So the KAK, which is the Greenland Football Association, which I don't know, they have decided to apply for joining CONCACAF. Now, sadly, and I know Jarrett's very sad about this, Greenland does not have a stadium that can be approved in relation to international requirements. So they'd have to play their home games on the road.
The capital of Greenland is Nuuk. I believe that's how it's pronounced in UUK.
Yes. And the association, here's your native, the KAK.
KAK.
The Kalaalit Arsaratartut Katuufiat. That is Greenland for the KAK. That's where your international.
Which one was football in that?
That's a good question. Probably the first one.
Okay.
Kalaalit Arsaratartut Katuufiat.
Why is the Danish Football Association the DBU and Greenland is the KAK? I do not understand.
Not sure, because like their recognized languages are Danish and English, but I'm sure there's like indigenous languages.
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
That it's probably going off of that we're not even going to try to pronounce.
Yeah. If Greenland came to Atlanta and wanted to make Atlanta their second home, would you accept that, Jarrett Smith?
I would accept it yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Can we lobby for Greenland to call Silverbacks Park home?
That's mean. I can do better than that.
No, they've upgraded the turf. It's okay.
Give them to the fraction.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Well, the grass is the
so,
fraction right
so
now,
as I'm looking this up,
saying.
so the capital Nuuk, what do you guess is the population of the capital city of Greenland?
1,500.
I was gonna go 912.
It's 18,000.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Greenland. I apologize.
It's right up against the Labrador Sea. It's on the southwest coast.
Okay.
I had a former coworker who was in the Armed Forces radio and served in the Air Force because his number was coming up for Vietnam. He did not want to go to Vietnam. So instead he ended up getting stationed in Greenland for a while, and the stories were pretty bleak about being stationed at I think it was Dual Air Force Base up there.
Man.
So I'm
it's
guessing
pretty bleak, man.
The most likely place for them to play their home games, unless they went to Iceland, which is not a CONCACAF member, would they be going to Newfoundland?
You go to Moncton.
Yeah, they've had games there.
Or Moncton hosted maybe the Women's World Cup.
Well, maybe you play in Vermont.
Well, there's a whole other place between there, is what I'm saying, John.
It's a different country, though.
Why don't they play in Maine then?
Do we know?
Or New Hampshire? I mean, why did you just slam Maine and go with Vermont? Why are you biased?
Because I know of a USL League 2 franchise that probably would open arms, would love to have them there.
Portland, Maine would like to fight you right now, John.
Okay, Portland, Maine, bring it.
They've had teams. Portland, Maine has had teams. Portland, Maine, I believe. I think Portland's still in the.
Well, and it could also be a warm up for Parky. If you want to see how things are in Rhode Island, maybe.
So now you're sending Greenland. You want Michael Parkhurst to be the technical director of the KAK. Is that what you're trying to create?
That'd be pretty strong, actually.
Well, they have a national coach who's Danish, Morten Rukjar. I can't remember where the J's go in Danish, if it's a Y or a ja.
I can't remember if it might be like a contextual issue, like depending on where it is, it makes different sounds, that sort of thing. Circumstantial.
Greenlandic is actually one of the official languages also. So they have their own official language.
Maybe that's where the KAK comes in.
Yeah.
Morton is very excited about Greenland joining CONCACAF. Clearly realistic that we are admitted. Great ambitions on behalf of Greenland's football. There are unimaginable opportunities, and with the foundation we are building, we are ready to take up the challenge. We will take up the fight against the great nations. Awesome. It is also of great value that we show Greenland and that there is huge support from the entire population. It may be that we do not win many matches in the beginning, but it means a lot that it is a common mission and we stand together as a nation. The whole country is ready.
I mean, they were runners-up in the Island Games back in 2017 and 2013.
Who won the Island Games in 2017 and 13, John?
Let's see. Who was? It was
who did they beat in the Island Games to get to the runner-up status?
Okay, so we're getting there. Hang on.
Because
Okay,
you say
so
that like they're going to be a CONCACAF contender, and I'm a little skeptical of that.
Greenland was in Group B, and they beat Gotland, the Western Isles, and Fruja to get out of the group stage.
What was the last one?
Fruja.
Where and what is that?
Fruja is the official football team for the Norwegian municipality in Trøndelag County. They're not affiliated with FIFA or UEFA. Fruja is a member of the International Island Games Association.
These are all non-FIFA related, by the way, and maybe we can admit them to CONCACAF as well.
This actually could be interesting if you had away days in Greenland. You would be best served. Well, no, seriously, if you played those games in the summer months, if you structured the calendar to play a lot of their games in the spring to summer to early fall months, you'd have to play them during the day, most likely. Well, you wouldn't have to play them during the day. It would behoove you to probably play them during the day.
It's like in the summer, it's all day long.
It's like 50 degrees is the average high in August. That's a nice day.
Yeah, that's a nice day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very small window that they have nice days, though, Jarrett.
It is, but kick it off. Like, that's what I'm saying. You'd have to structure it, hey, we're going to play a lot of Greenland's. Your games are going to be during the day so that we can play when it's 50 degrees outside. Or the average high in January is, according to Wikipedia, is 23 degrees.
That's fine. U.S. Soccer would have been fine with that. Greenland
U.S. Soccer thinks that's extravagantly warm, to be honest.
Yes, the level with the Greenland national team corresponds to the third division of the Danish league. Is what they think it stands right now. They've got players mostly playing domestically in Greenland, which we might have to start picking games from the Greenland league. But they also have a few playing in Denmark, in Iceland, and in the Faroe Islands. They're trying to get more players out playing who have developed in Greenland, but they're also trying to find players in Denmark who have Greenlandic roots and can play on the national team. So Greenland could be joining CONCACAF, and I think Jarrett wants to start the GoFundMe for them to build their own stadium so they can host games.
Apparently there's one under construction.
Nuuk Stadium is a multi-purpose venue in Nuuk, Greenland. It's used mostly for football matches. It has as of 2016, it had a 2-star artificial turf rating, which is the highest achievable rating for UEFA competitions.
Okay, that part's good.
In 2007, Nazareth played a concert there.
Wow, okay.
The capacity is 2,000 people.
Yeah, I don't know where their stadium is deficient on things. I mean, it could be some of the facilities. I don't know. We will try to learn more about Greenland and their ambitions.
To John's point, looks like they're proposing a stadium. Yeah.
Arctic Stadion. Stadium.
Arctic Stadium sounds pretty right.
Yep. Expected to seat. It's proposed in part to allow Greenland to participate, as the organization's strict guidelines on stadiums are a barrier to admittance. It's expected to seat several thousand spectators, be fully enclosed with heating.
Oh, there we go.
So there is an architect. A Danish architect is in play here, and initially it was supposed to be completed by 2020, but obviously things kind of got in the way.
I cannot wait to see St. Vincent and the Grenadines versus Greenland.
I'm really
excited about
keep the 3-game window. I know you don't like it, Jason.
It stinks.
Keep the 3-game window, because I want someone to have to take a trip from Guatemala to play a home game in the middle and then go to Iceland and go to Greenland.
Basically Iceland.
November 2019, the stadium's construction was delayed due to lack of funds, with the Greenlandic government continuing to seek investors to help finance the stadium's construction. Jarrett, there's your GoFundMe.
Let's start the GoFundMe, Jarrett. Come on.
Let's ask Kylian Mbappe what he thinks about CONCACAF now and CONMEBOL. Well, he ragged on CONMEBOL, but I feel like, for me personally, there is a sibling-esque relationship with CONCACAF and CONMEBOL where I want to yell at UEFA, like, you can't slander CONMEBOL, only we can slander CONMEBOL. You stay on your side of the ocean. You leave that wonderful federation alone.
Oh, boy.
I will not let you slander CONMEBOL.
I'm with that. I think Kylian Mbappe should probably just collect his money and be quiet about those things. CONCACAF Nations League games today. I mentioned a couple. British Virgin Islands hosting the Cayman Islands. Bahamas hosting the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Nicaragua hosting Trinidad and Tobago. And you can watch all of those on Paramount Plus, and they are definitely worth checking in on. Starting at about 4:00 is when the first games kick off. If you're just looking for something to blow your mind, turn on St. Martin and Aruba. There is, I have to go back and find him. I believe it was Loscar Perez, who played for the Atlanta Ruckus in 1998, who was an Aruba national team member. I think the only Aruba national team member to play for an Atlanta club. I think it was Loscar, if I remember right. I'll have to go back into my stacks on that one. Other rumor and innuendo and news and such, there's a bunch of it going on right now. Juventus have reportedly offered Paul Pogba €8 million per year net, plus lucrative bonuses as they try to get him to sign. Just do it already. I'm tired of hearing about it. Lyon are confident of getting the deal done to bring Alexander Lacazette back on a free transfer. Arsenal have said their goodbyes. Leipzig are trying to keep Josko Vardiol. Chelsea and Tottenham are interested. Manchester United's Erik ten Hag has been handed a £50 million boost for the club ahead of the summer transfer window. Players leaving the club, so he's got more money to work with than I guess he originally intended. Everton are trying to sign James Tarkowski on a free transfer. Frank Lampard needs to overhaul that squad a bit. Leeds are chasing Red Bull Salzburg's right back, Rasmus Christensen, 24-year-old. Dortmund are interested. Brentford are interested. £10 million is what it will take to get him. I think when you see something like that, Leeds and Brentford and Dortmund, you get a sense of where the financial power is in the game right now. The money in England from a TV perspective is so big that for guys like this, these are the competition points. You know, it's 10 million. I mean, Dortmund can spend more than that, but it's Dortmund versus Brentford to sign a player. Speaking of Brentford, they have offered Christian Eriksen a long-term contract, waiting on a reply. He would love to play in a Champions League again. He's been intrigued by Antonio Conte's comments about potentially bringing him back, but he does really like it at Brentford. Bunch of Danes at Brentford, Thomas Frank included. Very interested in what happens with Christian Eriksen in the long term. I'd kind of like to see him stay at Brentford, but if he gets a chance to play in the Champions League, it's going to be hard to say no. Lautaro Martinez, big source of conversation this week after he had a hand in retiring Giorgio Chiellini from the Italian national team. He wants to stay at Inter. Inter might have to sell him to balance their books and start paying off a loan. He has reportedly turned down an approach from Barcelona in a show of loyalty, but Inter might not have a choice. They might have to sell him, even though he doesn't want to go. So this could get weird. Keep an eye on Lautaro. Victor Osimhen, Bayern Munich are interested in Victor Osimhen from Napoli. We've talked about it. He's been reportedly discussed in the €100 million range, which is not something Bayern would pay. That's why I'm a little surprised by this. Corriere dello Sport is saying that Bayern contacted Napoli to ask for information, ask for the feasibility of a deal. They're looking for a Lewandowski replacement. They're not going to spend that kind of money. And I think Napoli is probably going to hold to that kind of evaluation. Speaking of Napoli, there are rumors lurking around about American funds interested in buying Napoli. Now, you got to remember Aurelio De Laurentiis. One, he's crazy, the owner of Napoli. Two, he's really crazy. He wanted to send the club multiple times into the Retiro, which is basically like a lockdown, which is basically like being grounded, where they train and they stay at the facility and don't go home. He wanted to do that a while back, and Carlo Ancelotti's like, no, this is stupid. And yeah, by the way, I went out, and he left. He wanted to do it again last season. I don't think it happened. Reportedly, $2 billion is what De Laurentiis would want for everything, and that's Napoli. That's Bari. The question that I had would be, would he sell Napoli and keep Bari, which is a lower division club that if they get promoted, then he's going to have to sell. He's going to have to sell one of them. thought he might keep that. But according to these rumors from Corriere dello Sport, he would want to sell everything, just completely sell everything he's got. Napoli, Bari, and his movie company, which is very lucrative, Filmaro. $2 billion for all of it. If Milan went for 1.3, potentially up to 1.8, $2 billion for everything. It's not crazy.
No.
I got a feeling there'd be more crazy on top of this somewhere, because that's just how ADL rolls. But keep an eye on that one. La Liga, Javier Tebas. We've mentioned that he is going after everybody and very comically talking about PSG and what they're doing to the game, which is not wrong, but he's also just a comic figure. Now he is going after PSG and Manchester City and Juventus in his complaint that has been sent to UEFA. He's accused all three of undermining healthy competition in UEFA competitions to the detriment on Spanish teams, even though he's got Real Madrid there who would like to spend as much. He's suggesting that these three clubs have jeopardized the football ecosystem with their irresponsible transfer market moves. PSG, his complaint, pretty obvious. He is confused as to how the French giants managed to renew Mbappe's contract despite accumulating €700 million in losses over the last 3 seasons. I can explain it to him really easily. They don't care about the losses. They have the money, and that's what they did. I don't like it either because, yeah, it is getting to a point, even though PSG haven't won the ultimate prize, but we've talked about Champions League. It is a bit of a crapshoot. They haven't won that. They've dominated France, which they would have done if they spent less money. But they don't care about the losses. They got the money. And there's nothing to stop them from doing it because the French league doesn't have the same checks and balances that La Liga does, which are not really as, I don't know, trying to generate competition as Javier Tebas probably thinks they are, because Real Madrid could spend up to 3-4 times more than some of their competitors last season, according to the La Liga rules, because they have done well financially. But is that creating competition? No, Javier, it's not. It's complaining against Manchester City they're due to their alleged and repeated violations of the financial fair play rules linked to their sponsorships with companies reportedly linked to the Qatari royal family. Yes, and financial fair play is meaningless, and we've known this for a long time. His shots at Juventus focused on the investigation out by the Turin Public Prosecutor's Office, which focused on the club's financial management over the last 3 seasons and their reported capital gains in particular. So he's going after them for keeping moves off the books and cooking the books and all those kinds of things, which is a different kind of complaint than the rest of it. But Javier Tebas is just complaining. He has sent his complaint to UEFA. He is expecting a response, and this is not going to stop anytime soon. Tebas is a little Looney Tunes here in general, but he's not wrong, Jarrett, in that the money that your PSGs and your cities are putting into the game without worrying about the losses, because they don't care about the losses because they have the money, it has changed the ecosystem. There's just no way around it. Tebas coming at it in the way he has is rich, considering Real Madrid can spend a whole lot of money and can damage the ecosystem in Spain, and they have, and there's no way around that either. But none of this is going to change without dramatic overhauls to the way the game is structured, whether Tebas complains or cries or not. This is just where we are in the game, and, you know, playing by the rules or the bendable rules or the kind of fake rules or whatever. That's what these clubs are doing.
I honestly like it better now that we're just admitting there's no rules.
I mean,
at least you're being honest about it now.
Yeah.
Instead of telling me that there's financial fair plays and you know, oh, we're going to hold everyone accountable. No, you're not. You're not. We know you're not. Quit pretending. Thank you for just being honest about the fact that you don't give a damn because a super club can write a check that makes it all go away. The board is tilted, and that's just how it is, man.
Speaking of which, it's funny. This is separate. This is nowhere near as big of a deal, but it's funny to see some of the responses depending on what side of the Atlantic they're coming from with Gaga Slonina. who has reportedly been offered a deal from Real Madrid, and Chicago turned down a deal. And that's ludicrous. How could they turn down a deal from Real Madrid? Why didn't they just take the first offer?
Exactly.
What are they thinking? They had a counter offer. They're insane.
Who are these people in Chicago with the
stop
counter
it.
offer? How dare you?
Welcome to negotiation. Duh. Jeez. And no, I agree. I think Badger said that, he doesn't feel like it's a good move for Slonina to go to Real Madrid. I would agree. I think he needs to play. He's at a point where he's playing. He's not going to play at Real Madrid. And if they put him with Real Madrid Castilla, I don't think that's the right move for him. It's a very arrogant thing for people to say. And I've seen MLS related people, of course, anonymous on the Twitters, saying that the second divisions in all of the top 5 leagues are all better than MLS. And it would be better for somebody like Slonina to go to Real Madrid's reserve team than play for Chicago. And I just can't argue that stuff harder. It's just dumb. It's a dumb statement. And no, it's not. You're not going to be challenged in the same way. As with any of these moves, it comes down to if Real Madrid puts forward, they want to pay Slonina $5 million a year and give him a 5-year contract, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, yeah, that's hard for him to turn down. They still got to buy his contract from Chicago, and Chicago can say no. And then you get back to the whole thing. Like, yes, the player can then push the move, and you get all the back and forth, which is all part of this. But this thing about where MLS clubs can't negotiate because,
how dare you?
So stupid.
How dare you now take the first offer? You should be grateful we've come before you, like Xerxes going through Greece and asking the city-states of Greece to bend the knee. How dare you try and negotiate?
Absolutely absurd. I don't think it's a good move for him, but who knows?
I literally just had this conversation yesterday about Scottish players, and I dropped it in the green room today about people in Scotland saying hey, we need these players to play. It's great that you're getting this offer to go to Europe, and this applies for my Scottish discussions I complain about, and this applies for MLS players, American players. It's great that you're getting these options to go play in Europe. Find the right one for you, though. Don't be James sitting on going to Real Madrid just because it's Real Madrid, and then you just don't progress.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back a little bit on that one because he was coming off like the World Cup of World Cups where.
Yes.
I
he
get
tried
it.
his
That's
best to be Diego Forlan. Nobody can be Diego Forlan at the World Cup except
James was about as close as you can get to Diego Forlan in 10. He was that in 14. He was insane in 14.
I don't know. Diego in the 80s was pretty.
Yeah, no, I'm talking modern times. Diego was
I know
fueled by other things that Forlan and James were not, probably, allegedly, possibly. James, who's to say? James had to cash in at that time. That was his time to cash in. I get it. That's different than, I don't know, Ramsey from Aberdeen going to Liverpool where he's not going to play.
Yeah.
If that happened. For
Billy Gilmore putting the entire English midfield in hell in the Euros and then having to spend the year just playing at whatever the hell Norwich was doing.
It's just, it's not always the idea of going to a bigger club is the right move.
No, it's not. And that's the thing is you're going to go to Real Madrid. I hope to God they loan him out. Because if he's not loaned out, where's he going to be? Is he going to play for their second team?
That's what I saw was he would play for the second team. People were trying to sell that, and some of this is Spanish people trying to say this too. That's what he should do. That'd be better. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
I thoroughly disagree. No, it's not.
No,
it's stupid.
Man, just if you want to compete and you chose US for your representation for international games. Slonina is betting on himself, and I don't blame him. He's insanely talented, and at his age, he'll be able to hit his stride at a point where, and look, goalkeepers age differently. He'll be able to hit his stride at a point where this current crop might be kind of ending their prime. That being said, man, I need you to keep getting games, and I need you to keep getting games in the right place. And I can't tell you what that is. I don't know what it is, but I do have this fear of, taking the big club just because it's the big club.
Yep. I got to bounce back to Javier Tebas and Real Madrid and Barcelona a little bit. I'm going to give you a flashback to September of last year, where Javier Tebas said that I have the feeling that Barca have been psychologically kidnapped by Florentino Perez and Real Madrid. It's like an inferiority complex. Keep that in mind as I tell you, according to Spanish reports, that Joan Laporta is negotiating with Real Madrid's financier, Bank of America, to sell TV rights for more than 600 million euro, that's a good deal. Better deal than Javier Tebas's CVC deal for La Liga. Keep this part in mind. Florentino Perez is keen on helping Barcelona to avoid a possible alliance between Barcelona and Tebas, and also to keep the Super League dream alive.
There you go. The Super League.
Psychologically kidnapped.
Psychologically kidnapped. I think that's the phrase of the show. So
now they might be financially kidnapped. But we talked about it earlier in the week with Barcelona trying to get their money right, get their situation right. They got to do it by the end of the month. They were ready to take the CVC deal because it would be some short-term money, but not a good long-term deal for a club like Barcelona. For smaller clubs, absolutely a good deal. For a bigger club, not so much. They could get 600 million versus 275. Yeah, and probably better terms too, because Barcelona's got that clout. I get that. But it's funny that Real Madrid, you're the ones behind the scenes pulling the strings because they've psychologically kidnapped Barcelona. Ugh, jeez.
Oh, God. Psychologically kidnapped.
And also, Javier Tebas freaking out about, clubs being able to just spend whatever they want. According to Gol España, Real Madrid's budget is around 450 million euro this summer. But they'll only do smart deals and not spend just because they can, which I think they're money that they would have spent just because they could. One of those guys went to Manchester City and the other one stayed at PSG. Maybe that's why Javier Tebas is so upset.
Now we're going to spend within our means.
Tebas is playing both sides against each other, which is hilarious. He runs La Liga. He doesn't run Real Madrid or Barcelona, but he's telling Barcelona, you're psychologically kidnapped. He's telling Madrid that, look what you're doing to Barcelona. But then he's getting mad at PSG and City for buying players that he wanted in his league. He didn't bend over backwards to keep Messi in the league. Just all kinds of craziness right now. It's absurd. Jarrett, if he became available, and it sounds like because his new manager at Fenerbahce, Jorge Jesus, has said that he is not counting on him for the next season, would you bring Mesut Ozil to MLS?
Are we still doing this?
No, I'm asking you. Jorge Jesus just walks up to the mic at Fenerbahce and says, yeah, I'm not counting on Mesut Ozil next year.
He is approaching Andres Guardado levels of won't he?
He's available.
I feel like we're watching a telenovela that won't end and just needs to end. Just take the damn thing out behind the shed already. My God. Send him to DC where he can languish. I don't care. I don't necessarily want him.
What, John?
I mean, you say that Ozil's available. Balotelli's also available.
You know who I want?
He's going to Monza, John. We've talked about this. He's going to lead Monza to Serie A glory.
No, go. You know what? Go get Juan Mata. He's free.
Yes, I would absolutely do that. I'd do that over Mesut Ozil in a heartbeat. I'd do that anyway. But Mesut Ozil is not being counted on at Fenerbahce any further.
Neither am I. We're in the same boat.
You were never there, Jarrett. That is not the same.
Hey, it's a day that ends in Y. Mesut Ozil's not being counted on, and
they brought him in not that long ago. So
for a massive contract. And
previous days in Y they did count on him. Jorge Jesus, I ain't happen. TalkSport understands that Manchester United have accelerated talks to sign Frankie de Jong from Barcelona, and Barcelona would probably like those to be accelerated. And yeah, that all makes sense. They want money now. That would be in the 70 to 80 million range. No brainer for everybody involved, I think.
Yeah, absolute no brainer. If you got it, take it, and then you can take the money and defray other costs. Go for it.
On Mexican television, ESPN Deportes, they have had El Chelis on quite a bit. And Chelis and Jorge Ramos got into a heated debate over who is to blame on Mexico's bad slump. And then others are arguing about Tata Martino's job security. I'm not hearing it, obviously, because I'm talking to you guys. But I am watching the video, and Chelis is incredibly animated. almost got up and walked away. I thought he was about to.
Does he have an ashtray with him?
He does not. He does not smoke on the set. He's wearing an all gray, like gray suit with a gray. I can't tell if that's a button down or not. Yeah, it's a button down. Gray suit, gray button down, no tie because he doesn't rock that, and he is flapping his arms like a maniac. Wow. Him and Jorge Ramos are going at it back and forth after Mexico's loss last night. Jared, I'll ask you what I brought up before. If Mexico loses to Ecuador in their friendly on Sunday, is Tata Martino going to make it to the World Cup?
Buddy, this was brought up last night, and I don't know the answer because
they got
in
blown
my
out.
head, you don't fire a coach 5 months before the World Cup after he just won the Octagon because
they
the
got
Octagon's
blown
weird.
out.
But
and it's Mexico
blown out, and Cavani. They got to send. They got to send Cavani a Father's Day gift. And time's running out, Mexico.
Yes.
And you got to just go to the Birds. They got a bunch of like Father's Day gift guides. Cavani will like something from there. Because in my head, I'm thinking like, yeah, you don't fire a coach 5 months for the World Cup after he won his group, but it's Mexico. Mexico operates on a different planet than the rest of us do.
Different plane, exactly.
And they were not happy about his performance in the Octagon as well.
I know they weren't, which is hilarious because they still won it. I know they weren't happy about it, but I thought the players in that last game of the Octagon, where they score and the players run over and celebrate with Tata
Actually,
Martino,
Jared, no.
lot.
Mexico did not win it. Canada did. I think that I was hearing the screams from Tim Hortons franchises in Canada.
You better hear them from here. They're hoping Tim Hortons in Atlanta.
One day, it's going to be a minute. They got to get that done first. I need my Tim Hortons before I give them credit. But Canada won the Octagon.
Okay, fine. Mexico still advanced.
They did.
But when Mexico players scored in that game at the end and they ran over to Tata to celebrate with him, that told me a lot about how the players feel.
100%.
By the way, Tim Hortons, whatever. I'm still waiting. I want the next sponsor on the shirt to be Buc-ee's because I want to take Atlanta United through CONCACAF Champions League. And I want that Buc-ee's logo front and center on a shirt when we have to go to Guatemala or Costa Rica.
Yeah, I'll take the warm-up shirts. That'll work.
Buc-ee's warm-up shirts.
Like Atlanta United scoring 3 goals at Herediano with a Buc-ee's shirt.
Wouldn't Buc-ee's go after the Texas teams first?
That's where they're based, yeah.
I mean, AmFam's not based in Atlanta, so
That's true.
Just because you're based somewhere doesn't mean anything. If they lose to Ecuador, the pressure's going to be high. If they lose by more than a goal to Ecuador,
oh boy.
I mean, Miguel Herrera's probably already sent in.
Elise, he's already probably sent his CV.
Elise can send whatever he wants. He's not getting anything. Stop it. Hugo Sanchez has got the track record as a player, and he's been there before, and he failed. But yeah, you'll go back to that because you're dumb.
Oh, Piojo
you're
will
not
absolutely
that
send in his resume.
Yeah, Piojo then will be reminded of punching out a reporter in the Philadelphia airport after winning the Gold Cup.
He's already sent in his resume again, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure he has, for sure.
He was sending it in at halftime of that game last night. But yeah, to your point, I guess to your point, like my final answer is if they lose by more than a goal to Ecuador, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I got a feeling that if they lose that game, that it might be too much for him to deal with.
Yeah, the pressure feels insane right now. And it would be so, and I feel like it would be so Mexico to just repeat what happened a couple World Cups ago. All the coaching dysfunction. We got a coach. We performed great in the World Cup. Get to the knockout stage, win the first knockout stage game, and then bow out.
Oh, they've been doing that for a whole long
I know.
time.
Mexico, you have a type. Play to
in every situation. But this time, I don't think they get out of the group.
That's right. Their group's
rough. I don't think they get out of the group.
Their group is murder.
Yeah, I don't think they get out of the group.
I mean, because there was the rumor last week, I think it was, that Tata Martino was offered, like, one of the federations in CONMEBOL reached out to him. Like, I mean,
reportedly, Colombia did hire a different Argentine though. Nestor Lorenzo hired him on Thursday. 4-year contract, replaces Reynaldo Rueda, who was sacked after Colombia finished 6 out of 10. Lorenzo was at Melgar in Peru, current leaders of the Peruvian top flight, which has really fallen on harder times. He's been an assistant for most of his career, Lorenzo. He was an assistant to Jose Peckerman. He was at the World Cup in 14 and 18 with Colombia there. So smart hire. He was with Argentina in 2006. He was with Peckerman at Toluca and Tigres and Liga MX as well. Not as much first number one experience for Lorenzo, but he's got good experience with Colombia. So I get it. 8 out of the 10 countries in CONMEBOL are coached by Argentines.
Hey, Venezuela, what are you doing?
They got an Argentine. Who are the 2 who are not?
Brazil.
The Brazil is one. Who's the other one?
Brazil will never be coached. I can't imagine Brazil being coached.
That would be hilarious. That would be amazing. Who's the other one? Modaflow's screaming at all of you in the Twitch pitch, I'm sure.
Uruguay.
Who told you?
Modaflow.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When you go, yeah, I'm like, oh, yeah, somebody told you because you didn't know that.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, Modaflaw, I was hoping you would insult people before giving them the answer first. Man, yeah, those 2. Those are the 2 who are probably the least likely.
Everybody want Brazil to win a World Cup with an Argentine coach. I just want to see what happens.
No, you'd never get to the point they actually hired the person. No. I do have another quote about Giorgio Chiellini's arrival in MLS with LAFC. Alessandro Del Piero is a big fan of this. Del Piero, in an interview with ESPN, assured that Chiellini's professionalism and experience will bring important things to LAFC and MLS. Pointed out that despite his age, he remains in shape to continue playing at the highest level, except maybe running fast, that whole part of it.
Yeah.
That's my commentary thrown in. Chiellini's arrival in MLS is a good move for everyone. He's a great guy. He's experienced, and he's still in good shape. And I think he is going to enjoy MLS a lot, and MLS is going to enjoy his personality and the way he works, the way he always seeks to focus on victories and find a way to always win.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. Get right on that.
What?
Not happening. Nope.
Not happening? What? It's happening that he has a personality that will be fun. Sure. It's happening that he's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
None of what Del Piero said is not happening, John. The part that is not happening is Chiellini actually running with, I don't know, most of the forwards in the league.
Yeah.
That's not what Del Piero was talking about, because honestly, I don't think Alessandro Del Piero really knows anything about MLS. And that's the issue. And you still get some of these guys who are great former players, absolutely legends of the game. Alessandro Del Piero, one of the best to ever do it. Amazing player. I don't think he knows anything about MLS. Probably doesn't know how many teams are in it. Probably doesn't know where they're located. Probably doesn't know who the top scorer is. Probably doesn't know any of that stuff. So he thinks, of course Chiellini could walk in there and do it because we're better. Of course. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. He's not going to be a bum. Let's not twist this around to where he's going to be the worst defender in the league. No, he's not, because he knows what he's doing. He's a smart player, but he's going to get burned in key moments because he just can't keep up like this anymore.
Correct.
And that's going to be the issue. I don't want, because look, we can jump into the hyperbole lane as much as we want, and it's fun to do sometimes, but I don't want this idea that Chiellini's not going to be able to complete a pass and he doesn't know how to play and that kind of attitude about it, because it's not true.
No.
But he's going to have problems in this league with certain aspects of it that are just non-negotiable. And it's something that people who talk about the league, or people who want to come out and talk about the league, have to know. This is a league that is much faster paced than Serie A. It is a league that has far more transitions than Serie A. And it is a league that he's going to walk in and start playing in July in heat that he's not accustomed to playing in.
Correct.
And he's going to play in a team, and this is the most important thing, because people kind of forget that MLS teams actually have personalities now. He's going to play in a team that is going to play a higher line than he's accustomed to. He's going to play in a team that plays in a way that he's not accustomed to. And he's going to walk in there and have to do things that I just don't think he can necessarily do at this stage, because you can't just walk in as a great professional at 37 and be able to boss things in this league anymore. You can't. Are there some who can walk in at 37 and do well? Absolutely there are. Absolutely there are. It's not just because he's a certain age, he can't play. He can't play in that team in that way in this league. If he went to a team that sat back more and played on the counter, different conversation entirely. Can't play at LAFC. I think he's going to make them worse. And Alessandro Del Piero should probably learn a little more about the league. Great. One of the greats of all time. No way around it. But some embarrassing statements right there. About as embarrassing as Roberto Carlos saying that he thinks Mexico is a semifinalist at the World Cup.
Whoa.
Oof, son.
Yeah.
Was that before or after last night?
It was before.
Somebody should have asked him afterward.
Yeah.
I know one game doesn't I know one game doesn't define you when it's technically a friendly, but still. It doesn't help.
Yeah, it does not help. I can't be too harsh on Roberto Carlos, though, because we will finish with this. 25 years ago, he had the greatest free kick of all time. The free kick against France that defies all logic and most rules of physics, that he hit with the outside of his foot, and it bent so far that the camera couldn't catch it at first and had to quick pan over to catch it. One of the most mind-bending things that you've ever seen on a football pitch. It was 25 years ago today that Roberto Carlos scored that goal against France.
I think it's fair to say that it's fair to tell if you ask the cameraman, and he would have probably said, I didn't think he was going to shoot from there, and I sure as hell didn't think it was actually going to be on target. And then I'm sure as hell of that I didn't think it was actually going to go in the net.
Well, no, the bigger thing is the way he took it. So, you go back and watch it.
Run up.
It's a 30-yard run up, and he strikes it with his left foot, the outside of his left foot, which nobody was really doing at any kind of a clip at this point from that distance. So when he hits it, the cameraman's probably like, oh, he mishit it. He mishit it, and it's going to go wide. And it has that outside of the foot bend, which I think is the prettiest thing when it's done right. And this was done as right as it could ever be done. It's insane. Kisses it off the inside of the post. I mean, just to bend it that far around the wall and in. And Barthez doesn't even move because he thinks it's going wide. It's just incredible. The outside of the foot shot or pass to me is the most beautiful thing. And to hit a shot like that with that much power with the outside of the foot, good.
Well, that's the thing is like it feels like one of those where you swing so hard with that foot and you're sacrificing accuracy a lot of times when you do that. We've done this. We've all done this in different sports, be it golf, baseball, whatever. When you swing hard, but the time you swing that hard and you catch it right,
yep.
When it leaves your foot, you caught it clean.
Barthez is just following it, and you just see him look like that. Just to his left.
The Trivela in Brazil is what it's called. It's just insanely hard to do. It's something that I would much rather see U10 coaches in this country worry about trying to teach people how to use the outside of their foot than win the turkey trot tournament in November. Much rather see them focus on those kinds of things for the 9 and 10-year-olds to use the outside of the foot. Please, 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 let's get back to that stuff. We'll get a couple of questions if you want to fire them off in the Twitch pitch really quick. I'll go back to...
I just looked up Mexico's group again. I'm sorry. Jesus Christ, Mexico.
Yeah, I know.
What the hell?
Absolutely brutal. Four Card said, who was the last European player to come and dominate in MLS? I'm not going to say it's a European thing. I don't want to do that. I don't think that's fair. I was talking more about older players, not so much a European player coming in like Chiellini, just older players. If Luka Modric walked into the league tomorrow, he'd dominate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about his age. He would dominate. Of course, your Messis and Ronaldos and those older guys. There are older guys who would come in here and do well. There's older guys from South America who would come in and do well. It's the fit to that team and what Chiellini has at this point for me that just doesn't work. Last European player to come and dominate. Let me see if I can come up with a somewhat unbiased way to get there. Back and forth about Zlatan. Did he dominate? Zlatan did great in MLS. He did not do great with his team in MLS because they only won one playoff game. They beat Minnesota. Whoopity-doo. But he scored a boatload of goals, and he scored some absolutely ridiculous goals. He's also a jerk. There's no way around that. And he wasn't a fun guy to have in your team, according to, I don't know, almost everybody who played with him.
Yeah.
I loved the I came and conquered thing he did when he left.
No,
Like,
that's
man,
dumb. That
dumb. Was just so...
He came and played well. He absolutely played well.
Yes.
You cannot say he didn't come and didn't play well, but yeah, stop it. In this season in MLS, European players in the top 20 in the SofaScore ratings, which, look, it's statistical ratings. It's a pretty good judge. It's not a pure judge. There's some positions that I think get underrated a little bit. But European players, Carlos Heel, yeah, he's done pretty well in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Dominant. Dominant's a tough one to always define, but Carlos Heel has been one of the better acquisitions in the league's history. He's number one in the current SofaScore ratings for the season. Taxi Fuentes has come in and done well. It's very, very small returns. Ani Mukhtar, growing into it, really nice player. Really, really nice player. Dominant, no. Really, really nice player. Alejandro Pozuelo has been great. Sebastian Giovinco before him, pretty close to dominant. Pretty close. Adam Books is 12 on this year's list. Not dominant, but very, very good. Kai Wagner, very, very good. I don't think Philadelphia allows any individual player to dominate much of anything except for falling down when you're going to get substituted. Yes, that was a shot at Philadelphia. Hi, Rich. How you doing? They dominate that aspect. So that is this year. Let me see if I can look at last year. I wonder how far it lets me go. So top 10, Carlos Heel was number 1 last year. Hani Mukhtar was number 3. Ryan Gauld came into the league and did really well last year. He's got to continue to do that. Albert Rusnak has been a very good European in the league. 2020, Pozuelo was ranked number 1. Lewis Morgan had a great 2020. He's had a great goal over the weekend. Dominant, no. But he had a great one over the weekend. Pozuelo and Morgan were the 2 Europeans in the top 10 in 20. Go to 19. Yeah, SofaScore gives me that. Zlatan was number 2. Pozuelo was number 3. Heel was number 4. Gregush was number 5. Rooney was 8. Nani was 10. Man, 2019 was the year of the Europeans. Crazy. 2018, it gives me those. Zlatan was 2. Giovinco was 5. Rooney was 6. Villa was 10. Okay. One thing I think we've learned from looking back at this is the dominance of European players in MLS has waned over the years.
Yep.
2017, Villa 1, Giovinco 2, Victor Vasquez 3, Rusnak 4. Jemiley from Montreal was 10. Wow, I forgot about Blair Jemiley. Forgot all about him. What is he doing these days? As we go down the rabbit hole. 36 years old now. He's at FC Zurich.
Okay.
Montreal legend. Montreal Impact legend. Ooh, do we get 2016? SofaScore. You're going to continue with this? Yes. Giovinco 1. Steven Gerrard was number 4. That's insane to me. Villa was 7. Jelly Van Dam from LA was 8.
Wow.
Okay. So just judging from this over a period of years, and I know Zlatan was only here for a couple, but he was one of the best in 2. Giovinco, Pozuelo, Heel are maybe the 3 Europeans of the last 5, 6, 7 years to be pretty dominant in this league. I'm okay with that. 15. We don't have ratings going back to 15 on SofaScore. They've got them going back to 16. So there you go. There's your trip down memory lane. Questions from the Twitch pitch as we finish. We're not going back a long way. Yeah, I'd agree. Giovinco dominated 100%. After 30 and dominated over a period of time, not just 1 year. Zlatan's there, but it's 2 years. Rooney was 2 years or 2.5? Rooney was really good. Villa was 3 years or 4? I think it was 4.
Yeah.
Villa got into 2018, right?
Yep. Modiflo suggesting Echeverri and Valderrama.
They're not Europeans. He's talking about after 30s, not
After
Europeans.
30s.
I was talking Europeans. You know where Marco Echeverri's from, John, right?
Not Europe.
You don't know where Marco Echeverri's from?
Uruguay.
No!
Or is he Colombian?
No!
Where's Marco Echeverri?
He's going to stab you on principle is what's going to happen.
Tell him, Modiflo.
Oh, Bolivia. Okay.
Yes, Modiflo. I'm right there with you.
We've done this before, and let's rehash this. Never guess where someone from South America is from.
No.
Don't
Unless
guess
you
the
better
country.
Kefsy, I am internally screaming. Please tell me you know where Carlos Valderrama's from.
Well, he was a part of the third.
Where's he from?
What?
Where's he from?
Oh, it was the.
You don't know.
Well, no, it's the 30 for 30.
You don't know. What country did he play for?
It was what? Argentina.
Oh my God.
All right, we got to go. We got to
got to hide John. We
I'm
got to
gonna
put him
start
in witness
cussing.
protection.
We got to go. Oh my goodness.
We got to hide him.
Oh, Colombia. Okay. Because I was trying to remember the 30 for 30 that was the two Escobars. That's why I was trying to remember where he was from.
How did you get to that and not remember Colombia?
Well, like I said, I was trying to remember I was trying to remember the two Escobars. That's where I was trying to go.
There's a riot in the Twitch pitch.
What country did Gary Neville play for, John?
Oh,
Greenland.
no.
Bring it
Wales.
on.
Greenland, yeah.
What
By the
country
way,
did he play for?
Oh, England. Visit Greenland, by the way.com has been a tremendous resource for this entire show.
Yes. What country did John Terry play for, John?
Chelsea.
I would love
Not
if
funny.
Chelsea
You
just
really can't
decided-
crack jokes right now at all. You're not allowed.
I would love if Chelsea just declared their independence from England. That would be amazing.
That might actually happen. Yeah. Anyway, England.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to break you of this because it has warped your brain. They did a giant golden hologram of Carlos Valderrama. Show that man some respect,
Which
please.
was
And where he's from.
That was amazing, by the way.
Yes, and they should have put a Colombian flag on it so you would have known where he was from.
True.
Oh my goodness.
At least I didn't get him confused with Wilmer Valderrama.
I'm not putting it past you. And again, you can't really crack jokes about this after that horrific performance you just had.
Fun fact, Wilder Valderrama was in Encanto, which takes place in Colombia.
Yes, there's that. I don't even know where to go from here. I will just tell you that if you need some entertainment, I am not going to go into the details. You guys can find these for yourselves. But you might want to catch up on Gerard Piqué's current situation. Just saying. It's just go do the reading for yourself. You might have to go into some tabloids. Actually, no, you don't have to dig too deep on what's going on with Gerard Piqué these days.
No.
Wow is all I have to say about any of that is wow. We will get into a bunch of stuff next week. The next couple of weeks will be kind of loose with some of the content, which can be a good thing or it can be a scary thing when we start quizzing John on where players are from.
True.
We will get into what the U.S. men's national team does on Sunday against Uruguay, and they just spanked Mexico. So what does that look like? That'll be an interesting game. We'll see what Mexico does with Ecuador. That'll be a very interesting game. We will probably talk about the CONCACAF Nations League more than the UEFA Nations League, just because it's far more entertaining to see how the U.S. Virgin Islands is doing. And Bonaire, who's a road favorite. We'll get into all of that on Monday. We will have Bart Keeler on to talk U.S. men's national team. And you guys have a good weekend. There are a couple of local games that I know of off the top of my head if you are going through withdrawals. No Atlanta United 2 this weekend. But you could go to Peachtree City to see Peachtree City MOBA in action in USL League 2. You could go to Kennesaw to see Apotheos FC host the Georgia Storm in NPSL action. I don't know if there's any others off the top of my head, but if you're looking for a local game to check out and you got a weekend to do it, Kennesaw on one side of town, Peachtree City on the other, probably more. Check out your local team schedules and go from there. Yes, Ricky, you looked it up, and there you go. Check it out, Gerard Piqué.
Mm-hmm.
Have a better weekend than Gerard Piqué, everybody. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.
Platio.
You okay, Gerard?
I don't think so.